podcast episode. Today, Dave is out on some travel, so you have Ruthi and myself, Alan. Topic for today is about using AI tools. What are some current use cases? How are you using them? What do you see as being, most useful about them, or missing functionality, something you're hopeful for in the future? So we're going to mix a little bit of everything just to make it kind of fun and interesting. We're going to mix a little bit of, personal of kind of the fun and interesting things that we're making use out of these tools with, but also some work, applicable stuff. What you can actually do with these tools today to actually improve your workflow, your career, and your day. So, Ruthie, do you want to kick off or do you want me to?
I'll
Where are
kick
we?
off and I'll just add on as well. One of the reasons we wanted to chat about this is because first, our use cases and sort of what we can do and what we've been trying out are continuously evolving. And I think the other thing that's helpful too of having people to talk to that have similar skill levels is sometimes I see a bunch of AI use cases and it's like, oh, that feels out of reach or it's too much, right? Whereas if I
Mhm.
know Alex and Dave are doing something, I go, oh. I bet I could do that, or at the very least, I could, they could break it down. And so being able to compare notes with peers seems like a really helpful thing. And as we go, if there's anything that, strike you as something interesting, feel free to reach out and we can always put together a prompt library or set it out on pathways as, hey, these are things that we're trying. Feel free to latch on to. So I'll start just with some of the personal ones because it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Nothing fancy on my end. And then maybe in a bit we'll talk about some of the various work related uses. The first and foremost one is I know deep research isn't new and it's not novel, or at least it isn't if you've been working within any of, Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT for a while. I finally got around to actually playing around with it in a real way. And one of the things I was looking for was sunscreen. So I had purchased sunscreen at the beginning of the year for my kids, and it did not work. They came home and they were burnt and application was terrible and there was just a whole bunch of just it was pretty rough. And you go to the shopping aisle and you look at a whole bunch of sunscreens and you can look at reviews online, but that only gets you so far. I said, hey, we've got these fantastic new tools. So I said, let's try out deep research because I really want to know the nitty-gritty of sunscreen. And when we think about this, there's so many different elements of it. Does the thing protect against the various UVA and UVB rays that we care about? Yes or no? Okay, but then we've also got this layer of all right, there's chemicals that are scary that may or may not be harmful, and there's a lot of uncertainty and ambiguity. I don't have a lot of time to
Wow.
actually go into the research to know, like, is this actually harmful? Is this just noise? Is this
Yeah.
something that isn't harmful today, but could have, like, there's a question mark 50 years from now? What's the trade-off between those two things? And so what I did is I structured a prompt that essentially said, hey, you are a product development team creating a new product for sunscreen for kids. Talk
Hmm.
me through what is the what is the academic consensus around best ingredients for UVA and UVB protection. Also, talk me through if there's any promising new research that's upsetting the academic consensus. Then talk me through sort of health effects or known long-term health effects from, again, the academic consensus, but then talk me through if
Sure.
there's any sort of new research coming out. There was another one on, I think, application and ease of use, right? Because if you're putting it
Oh,
on
yeah.
kids, it's like, is it easy to put on? Is it hard? What do we need to think
Mhm.
about from an ingredient perspective in terms of effectiveness? Um, and then I said, okay, so first do that research, then tell me what your list of ingredients would be for a new product and why, and then tell me what the competitors are in
Oh,
the landscape against that particular ideal ingredient list you have, and tell me how those competitors, different products are better or worse than what you've put forth.
wow.
Super in depth, but what it got
Yeah, that's a whole
me
new
was
level.
what I wanted to know.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I've got a similar. I was going through a little bit of I use ChatGPT pretty heavily, Claude, Gemini to a lesser extent, Copilot when I need to. There's like one or two prompts, honestly, I find useful there. But I was going through my ChatGPT kind of history, thinking about some of the more personal cases of when I was pulling it up. And It is those, you know, it's the two search, three search Google queries that
Yeah.
I kind of find from an SEO lens. I'm always thinking about that, kind of like, how would I normally, provide this data? How would I
Yeah.
normally search for it? What kind of content would be useful for it? I mean, my mind's always a little kind of twisted that way. Um, but it was each time I've kind of been looking at these things, it's not the yes or no. I mean, honestly, like the AI overviews thing is great in Google. And if it was those kinds of questions, I consider those questions almost Googleable
Yeah.
questions versus something that is in depth. And if it is, I need to know this piece of information and this piece of information, that suddenly negates Google. Like I'm looking for a new source. Or I'm prepping myself for like, okay, I gotta search this one thing, read three different blogs, figure out what those details are, things of points of interest that I should be interested in and try to figure out, the real solution. Okay, now I need to search for that one and then try to figure out like kind of you go down this like user journey kind of path of query after query after query until you finally get the same information. And you're trying to basically like, okay, I got that part. Let's pull it together already. Try to give me something that's summarized in the package so I don't have to go through that process piece by piece by piece.
Yeah.
And also, Google search, honestly, I gotta say, just has gone downhill. Like, there's so much crap content. Like, almost anything I'm searching now. Oh, man. Yesterday, I was searching for URL transformations and transliteration, right? It's where you take like a German word that may have an umlaut in it, you put instead of the letter U because Latin characters are what URLs are made out of. It's the way it's set up. You have to figure out what that transition is, right? And all I could get was religious articles. Transliteration of URLs is literally my query. Transliteration of, and I got the transfiguration of Jesus Christ done 10 times. And I was like, I literally have in URLs in my search query. Why am I getting anything religious? Like it was so bad. Or I get so many. I search for something and it's just filled with top 10 best this, top 10 best this. And I'm like,
And
I don't
it's
want
the
a freaking
same list
listicle.
that
And it's
somebody copy pasted or syndicated out to a whole bunch of
gosh, I know.
websites. So,
Yeah,
you had recommended to me the uh, co-intelligence episode on art of manliness,
yeah,
um, which is an episode with around AI, of course, with a professor out of Wharton, I believe.
yeah.
Um,
Ethan Molinick.
oh, say it again.
Ethan Molinick.
Yes, who's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
And one of the suggestions he had when sort of working, creating prompts and asking questions was sort of you kind of have to lay out the thinking to
Hmm.
get better results. And so this was my first application of that, of here's sort of the
Got it.
background information that should be considered along the way. Hey, go
Yeah.
take a look at peer-reviewed articles and things. Like,
Hmm.
and also I put an explicit note, cite your sources along the way so I could go check
Sure.
out, is this something that was an often cited thing or was this more of an obscure PubMed thing
Or hallucination.
or a hallucination?
Yeah.
So he said, walk through in sort of a logical way how you want it to think about the problem and then ask the question, which I think comes back to your point about Google,
Yeah.
which is you say, like, give me a product recommendation, and you do get these top 10 lists, but you also don't get the why. Or if you do get
Yeah.
the why, it's on a two-sentence superficial level where you go, well, I don't even know where that information came from.
And the bias is actually a concern there too. So in all directions, actually, really. But I get really concerned every time I do a product related search, best whatever. I was looking at smartwatches recently, trying to find a really small, lightweight ones versus some of these giant ones that are out there that I can track everything, but I don't care. I just want something really, really basic. And it was so funny because it was the same problem. I basically kept going list after list after list, listicles, basically these, top tens. And if you read through all of it, you finally got to the disclaimer at the end. This article was sponsored by da 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 da. And I was like, oh, come on. Like, it was always pretty obvious because suddenly the top 10 is only like one brand or two brands. And I'm like, there's more than that in this market. Like there's a bunch. So why is this one being pushed? Or you get like you look at three of them, and one of them has very weirdly, one of them, right near the top where the other two had said, no, this one's a dog. I mean, it's terrible. And the other one said, oh, it's great. And it's like, oh, there's the affiliate link. And the other ones don't have affiliate links. You're just trying to churn affiliate money for these articles. So, and that one was the one that you got a tag for. And that's just, it destroys the value of it and it wastes my time. That's kind of it. It's a sales pitch when I didn't ask for one. I wanted an unbiased critique. I was looking for a true recommendation of, somebody who's a slight expert or authority of some sort.
Yeah.
And instead I went over to ChatGPT basically again, asking you for give me a couple recommendations, show me in that case, show me a chart showing what the different points are, price
Oh,
points, ratings. I want links to since these were common products, I want links to their Amazon listings so I can check out the ratings and kind of double check that those stars, 4 out of 5 or whatever actually is 4 out of 5. There's so many sites out there that now post ratings that are brand ratings or off-site ratings or something like that, just to make sure that they can get that, um, search snippet and yeah, be ranked a little bit better. So,
that also reminds me of another use case I've had recently that's failed. And then I want to hear some of the ones you've had as well, which is I have been playing around with creating an interior designer agent. So
okay.
we're going to be moving here shortly. And I'm figuring out, it's a slightly bigger space. We got to figure out, okay, like we need some key furniture. I want to think about paint. I want to think about rugs, like all the things
Yeah.
that might go into making this new house a home.
Hmm.
Create an interior designer agent, and the idea was, okay, it'll be based off of some interior designers whose aesthetic I already like.
Hmm.
I'll give it a little bit of prompting or a little bit of information and context around the types of things I like, types of things I don't like. Um, and let's see where this evolves, right? Let's see how we can turn
Sure.
this into something that I can have a continuous conversation. So far it's not been a great success.
Yep.
The areas where I found a lot of value, I didn't really need this agent. In terms of, hey, help me think about how I might ask for this new contractor's price on painting, or what considerations do I need to be in the bid that they put back, things like this. But
Sure.
I didn't
Sure.
need this. And the areas where it keeps asking me if I want product recommendations, and I occasionally will say, sure, why not? Flooded with Wayfair, with Home Depot, with Walmart, with
Yeah.
Amazon, just flooded. And at one point, I just said, "Do not put any of these in." And what I
Yeah.
found was it found way, well, it didn't find ways. That's anthropomorphizing a bit. It was still giving me the same types of product recommendations, even though I had explicitly told it not to do Wayfair, Amazon, etc. Um, like I was looking for more niche or
Yeah.
is like pulling teeth to get it to recommend even a Pottery Barn article. And like that's not like a small niche.
No.
And so
No.
I wonder if back to your listicles, if there's so much of that sort of dare I say junk web content that has
Yeah.
even been sort of flowing in that it's almost it's a pretty big challenge to get it to do what it is I want it to do in this case.
Absolutely true. And that's been a struggle. I mean, it's kind of US based retailers that we've mentioned, but a couple of them, like Home Depot, which is a home improvement store with lumber and nails and screws and all the rest, also has this absolutely gigantic e-commerce side to it, which is 100% shipped in directly from manufacturers, has nothing to do with the stores being shipped into you. And it has basically the same list that Wayfair or Amazon would have, millions of products, which also changes the reputation of a retailer as well because it's no longer the reputation of the retailer's brand and the choices of products that they've decided to put inside their store. Instead, now it's let's just pack it with everything. And that's also Wayfair's model, which gets into some really junky stuff. This was a funny one. I was on Etsy yesterday and looking to build a new project. And it's a headboard for a bed. And there's some interesting kind of creative solutions that people have done and some fun woodworking ones. And I'm kind of looking for a woodworking project about that size and complexity. So I was looking at different ones and I started going through Etsy because there's a lot of woodworking plans that are posted there. A lot of people try to make some revenue off of that. And I do buy a fair number of plans from people, creators that I support. I modify everything heavily, but I still like to support them because, I got inspiration from them and it's like 5, $10. Like it's just something to be like, appreciate that you put together a video on this. And it was AI generated imagery and AI generated products. These were insane fantasy, like wood, driftwood, twisted somehow in a bizarre way, and all natural from an ocean somehow, but you can order 10 of them and they'll look the same. Okay. And the whole the photos of the product in use were completely just a fantasy realm. Like you could notice like little things of certain blankets were just merging into the pillows, like it's stuff like that where it's like bad AI,
Out of
image gen.
curiosity, were they also selling the rainbow colored roses?
Oh
The
my
beads
gosh,
for
that one
those?
kills me. Or the black roses or the
Yes,
seeds. Oh
yes.
man.
Neon blue. Yep.
Neon blue, right. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. You can grow a rose that literally every petal is a different color, except wait, no, that's Photoshop. Oh, no, it was ridiculous. I mean, I was just starting to go through it, but it started to get really disappointing too because I had a hard time understanding some of these products and product shots of the better, more basic listings, which had less in-product usage kind of ones. It was just the product itself. Is that actually a real product or not?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like some of the stuff was like rattan or wicker wrapped stuff, and it was interesting to look at and all the rest. But at the same time, it was like I don't have enough knowledge around the area. I don't have enough, photographic or video evidence to prove that this thing is real
Yeah.
or not. And it says it's, $700 or something like that. And then I'm like, there's no way I would have the level of trust to be
Yeah.
able to purchase this item now that I've recognized that there is AI generated content being posted on the site. Like the trust factor. Sorry, just kind of homing in on that a little bit of
Yes.
some of these product recommendations and just the struggle there. Um,
I was also thinking about the superstar effect this could create, or a variation on it, which is I noticed my reaction to what you just articulated, the experience you just had on Etsy, um, is to say, well, now my level of trust for any new emerging small creator is so much lower because I don't
yeah,
know. So what am I gonna do?
yeah.
I'm gonna go to the known, established, the companies I purchased from in the past.
Hmm.
Where is it the best of the best? Is it the latest, the new? Maybe, maybe not. But at the very least, it's trustworthy.
Sure.
And what does that what does that do for the Etsy's of the world,
Oh,
where
it's harder.
building trust is step one, and it's an uphill battle as it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't really see that struggle really ending either.
Mm,
Like I tested out Temu and a couple other ones, again around woodworking stuff, but I didn't buy electronics from them. I didn't buy anything complex from them. I bought really, really basic
yeah.
like metal tools that like are three parts put together kind of a thing. Um, Again, not trusting that the quality of anything more complex or more precise would actually be accurate or good.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, if I buy something really basic, it can't be that bad. And no, yeah, it can be. There was
Yeah,
some stuff
again.
that was absolute junk, and I was
Have you
like,
ever bought a $5 spade for your garden?
oh my gosh, no, yeah, it just bends. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
imagine. Yeah, there's a price floor to some of the stuff, but the difficulty, again, from the market standpoint, I can understand too, of being there's thousands of manufacturers out there. How are you really vetting each and every one unless you're doing some sort of like private label? Thinking of like Costco has Kirkland and a few other, a lot
Hmm.
of companies, retailers have their own house brands that they've developed, but it also means that they've worked with those manufacturers and seen those products and decided to put their name on it, creating their own little universe of products on top of their market.
This is such a cool tangent, but I also want to hear what
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
been trying out and testing. So we'll move
yeah.
on, but we might come back to
Sure.
this in a later episode.
Yeah. Oh, random interior design one. I struggled through a whole project with that. IKEA. IKEA has a super cool interior design app because you take a photo of like your basement or some living room, and then you can delete everything out of the room and then place in their products and sized appropriately, and all the rest stuff snaps to like walls and corners and stuff, and you can kind of re look at areas. I found it useful because a house that we live in has, paintings on the walls or pictures on the walls, kids' art everywhere, kids' toys. I mean, you name it. But I was able to take a photo and to wipe it all out. And it gave me at least a blank slate that is my room, or is that room. And then I was able to kind of like, okay, kind of reimagine the space doing that. You have an empty house. I mean, different situation, but that was kind of cool.
That is really cool. Or even just being able to place the furniture in the room. I have yet to
Right.
actually use one of those apps, but I will
Yeah.
be in the next couple of weeks. So
I've
appreciate
struggled.
it.
I've struggled to find a good one. Whenever you're actually trying to place good visuals of a room and actually layouts and all the rest. Um,
Which is so important because you've got the scale question of, making
yeah, and I think that's the piece that hasn't been quite developed quite yet, is not just creating the image in the first place, the diffusion aspect, what pixel should be next to what pixel. But instead of what pixel next to what pixel, okay, now we have complete images. Okay, now we have to analyze those images and properly resize to fit. I've seen some that just try to paste it on top, that kind of
yes,
thing, and it's just,
yes,
it doesn't really work.
this is dubious.
Yeah. All right. Other ones. You want to switch over to work stuff
Yeah,
or
yeah,
do the
let's do
first?
it.
Okay.
You kick off the work stuff and then I'll take on a couple.
Okay. Um, I've got a fairly small team and a fairly small company, but we're very nimble. What that does mean, though, I have a lot of freedom in the role of changing the way we're going to do our work. Literally from we could change it from week to week if we really wanted to. We could just notify our stakeholders and now we're doing something different. Like we can move very, very fast that way. It's kind of fun.
That's awesome.
The difficulty, of course, is we're trying to do everything, kind of boil the ocean approach instead of boil a teacup, right? And we're struggling with the ocean. Turns out it's kind of big. Who would have thought? Feel like there's some people that might have noticed that a few thousand years ago. But we're figuring it out ourselves. And yeah. So I've been trying to create a number of kind of scaled systems to handle the situation that we're in, which is modern day marketing has a giant MarTech stack. And trying to keep a handle on all of these different systems and all of these different programs, all these different tactics and all the rest is very difficult. We have agency partners, but even with that, I want to have oversight over those agencies and seeing, actually, are they running these paid search accounts well, or are they just letting it run and then every month is kind of questionable data? It's like you got to have some insight all over the place. And if issues arise, you have to be able to move on it fairly quickly. Um, so part of this is one, I've been trying to create standardized automated reports. Been fairly successful with those. So Google Ads has Google Scripts, and there's a bunch of them out there, but I had ChatGPT write one that was custom to what I wanted. And it took a variation of some ones that they had in the past, which was checking for 404s on landing pages every 10 minutes. It checks it, and then gives me a daily summarized report of how often it occurred. Missing tracking codes on final URLs, which we had a problem with that for a couple of them, so that was awesome that it flagged it. Um, not enough spend to cover, like the budget was off, so it wasn't enough spend, and it wasn't spending thoroughly enough. High number of clicks with low conversions, like a sudden change there, kind of things like that, or sudden spikes. There's some thresholds and some stuff like that. It checks a few other things too, but mostly focused on the 404s, the missing tracking codes, kind of the bare basics kind of stuff, because I like my reports or any report, honestly, that gets shared out to be one short sentence summarized. So the sentence that I was going after was, is my fill in the blank of tactic, Google Ads screwed up? That's what I want the report to say. That's it. It is a confidence boost that basically says I don't need to log into that system and run through a bunch of tests myself. And that's all I wanted was a confidence boost that that was being handled enough that it wasn't screwed up. Not recommendations, not enhancements, not expansion, nothing like that. Just is it screwed up or not? Like, do I need to deal
Yes.
with this? Is this a fire? That's it. That's it. And I like reports to be stupidly simple down to that summarized moment because a chart that is that simple can be reused and shared with a whole bunch of different audiences. if I'm doing my own investigation work, I'm going to be pulling crazy amounts of data and very, very little ad hoc things, and I never really probably won't ever see it again. It was just a question I needed to answer. I wrote, go down that rabbit hole, I figure it out, I move on. But for routine reporting or presentation reporting, every chart should be simple enough that I can basically display this to somebody who doesn't really know, and they get it, and they get the point of it, and they move on. If it has to be three different charts, it should be three different charts. Don't make one super complex because that's crazy to do to people.
Okay,
But
couple of questions. Talk me through some of what you did and how you did it. For example, did you have
sure.
an agent? Is this a prompt? Are you attaching a spreadsheet with information? Do you have integrations? What tools are you using?
Absolutely. So I can work for this. So first off, what's basically is I worked with ChatGPT trying to make sure that I had my couple of ideas, and really what I wanted was like, I just need to know if it's screwed up or not. What does that mean? What are some things that I should be checking on my Google Ads accounts to make sure that they're running correctly? I do not want recommendations for improvements. I don't want recommendations for enhancements. I just need to know kind of a status of them. So I had listed out like three different things. It added like a maybe one or two more, so it became a better list. Okay, so now I can use that in Google Ads. Google Ads has a section called scripts. They're under the bulk edits section. You click that and it literally just has an empty window. You paste in your script. You try to run it. There's problems. You go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth with ChatGPT saying, nope, this didn't work, this didn't work, this needs to be authorized back and forth. About an hour later, I got it to finally work. And what it does is it runs that information and it pulls it into a Google Sheet. And it basically just appends the bottom of that same Google Sheet and keeps basically adding it with a date stamp on it. So that's what it does. In Google Sheets, there's also, if you click towards the toolbar, there's Google Apps and Google Apps scripts. Basically, and that is a separate thing in kind of the Google Sheets area. So that's the interface you're using then. Same thing. Basically, it's a blank window. You can paste in a script and it'll run that automated script. So what that does is it takes this list of data that's basically being appended inside this Google Sheet, done on a daily basis from Google Ads, so it's feeding that sheet. Now the script formats that data and emails it to a list of people that I can easily add more people to it. Took a bit to get it to email out, but it does. So every single day, there's a group of people in my company who receive an email that says Google Ads status, a little hyphen, and it says the number of issues found. So if it's zero, you just delete the email. If it's 10, you got a problem. Do flags happen occasionally? Yeah, but honestly, the script has been super solid. It's not wrong. It has always been a question of, no, we're doing this in a new way or a different way or something like that. That's a new modification. It's not that the data that it actually pulled was inaccurate. It was that we've changed our methods, so it had to be updated. Um, Been super useful. It found things on the first run of stuff that's actually been hanging out there for months, and we didn't catch it. So super useful. Agency didn't know. Nobody knew. Some stuff that should have been fixed. Yeah, super handy. So I'm creating another one. Kind of keep going down the line. So Bing Ads has an API, same thing, trying to pull that data into that same Google Sheet, and it's being appended to that same email. So now the email basically has Google Ads and Bing. And then the next one is going to be an SEO one, which is partially based off of GA, which I've got the 404 report done from GA. It's in just an automated report that it's doing.
Yeah.
And it's just an exploration inside GA4. I just had to find our 404's page titles get translated. So we have like 18 versions of 404 page not found, in every language
Ah,
you can, you know.
always good.
But yeah, right. Kind of hard to make a rule. But luckily, they all have 404 and then a space, and we don't have a product ID that pops up like that. So it is all our 404s happen to have that same piece in them. So I could say in the page, name using GA4 language, 404 with a space, find me everything that, and then I made an exploration report from that. That again kicks over to basically a Google Sheet. Google Apps script grabs that, puts in the same Google Sheet as the email one. So now they're both there together. And then again, the Google Apps script gets updated again to basically email that out to me. So it says if I have 404s across the entire website. um, that at least if GA4 picked up. There's other reasons why GA4 doesn't always pick up stuff, but so that's that one. GSC is one of the later editions, and then I've got Screaming Frog trying to get that one running. So that is Screaming Frog has a scheduler running that against all the URLs inside my XML uh, sitemaps. So it just starts at all my under Screaming Frogs includes. You can list out all the different sitemaps, which we don't have a sitemap index, so we have to do them all individually. So it hits all of those. It crawls every single URL that are in my sitemaps, and then it basically creates a report. And Screaming Frog has a scheduler, so it runs automatically. It runs headless, which basically means it does not open on your computer, it just runs in the background, and it is super fast compared to the actual user interface that you normally would work with. It runs like 15 URLs a second versus like three. Super fast to run it. So anytime actually you're doing bulk crawls, really nice if you can run the thing headless because it just exports the report. You literally have a folder. You have your Window Explorer on your desktop open, and you've got the folder, and then something like a new file just pops into it, and you open the file, and there's all your data. Like just crazy. You can also get it, which is part of this project, to automatically upload to um, to Google Drive. And that's where my sheets start to appear in Google Drive. And then same thing, can hook it into the sheet, can hook it in the email.
This reminds me very much of a conversation I was having over the weekend. So I remember a few years back, you had shared some of the cool connections that you could do when you where you could share various data from Google products directly into Google Sheets,
Yep.
and it would allow you see the data, manipulate the data, and
Yeah.
that a lot of that automation was already present, but what seems to make this moment unique is that it's sort of a convergence of multiple technologies. It's bringing that automation in with the natural language processing and perhaps some
Yes.
of the other marketing automation activities that may have just incrementally improved. And now it's allowing you to do a step further that feels like a much larger step change.
Absolutely. And yeah, the old version was basically it's Google Ads has these different scripts, but they were pre-formatted. They're written by Google themselves or various, people online through LinkedIn or whatever. Um, and it was just whatever it was what it was, right? I wasn't, smart enough with or knowledgeable enough with in terms of the code to be able to manipulate it and change it. But yeah, now it's completely custom. It does exactly what I want it to and does nothing else that I don't want it to, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. It is connecting all these different products together. There's probably other ways that would be easier to do it too, but it's also troubleshooting for me. Like I ran into so many issues with Screaming Frog even, and I would ask
Yeah.
ChatGPT, I got this problem, what's going on? Or Google Apps Script has a weird authorization I need. I don't know what this means. It's like, oh, it's because of this, and it gives me the reason behind it. Like there's so much information that would have been, rabbit holes on forums
Oh yeah.
online to try to maybe understand why this random flag is happening. And even doing, and also I should say, this isn't seamless. It is way better than it used to be. ChatGPT has improved a lot. I've done similar projects even like 6 months ago, and is way better than it was. Um, but even just getting the ads one out that just said the 404s and problems like that,
Yeah.
that took me like 6 or 7 hours to do straight. And I'm familiar with this stuff.
Yes.
Like not easy. And getting the even the 404 one from GA integrated in this and sent out. That was probably another 5 hours on top of that.
I mean, that's
And
a
that
good
was,
call out of some of these projects. They're not easy.
no.
They're not like oh, quick, just do the thing.
Or an
But,
intern, like, hey, intern, go do this.
right,
No,
because
that's not
you have
fair.
so much background knowledge,
Yeah, exactly. Right.
but it's making things possible that didn't exist before.
Hmm.
And there are some things like your comment about the troubleshooting, that's half of the use cases I have at work is like
Yeah.
to your point, they're in this forum or the company has documentation. It's public facing. You could go find the documentation,
Hmm.
but saying, "Hey, Copilot," even. I know. We talked about Copilot last time, but even Copilot, I can toss in documentation, or I could say, "Go find the documentation," and it can come back to me with something that's relevant to the question I'm asking.
That's extremely useful. I mean, especially in the world of remote work, I feel I use LLMs more frequently for that than probably anything else, which is sounding board kind of things where I have an idea or I got a need of some random kind of sort. Give me something to react to, basically. And it would totally, if it was in person, be the times that I would look around the office and say, that person looks super bored. Hey, do you mind grabbing coffee and we can talk through this? Or can we go on a walk quick? I need to like work out this idea and I can't quite I need to kind of like, parse it out somehow.
Yes.
And in remote work, I always feel like I'm bugging somebody because I don't know what they're doing.
Right.
They could be really, really busy, and I really don't want to just frustrate them by constantly pinging somebody, being like, "Hey, do you have 5 minutes to talk about a random topic that really just affects me?"
Which are still good to do because it builds connection and they might have been
No, it
twiddling their
does.
thumbs, but it's a really good point of you have no idea. You have no
No.
way of knowing.
Yeah.
Um, the a related one that I wanted to chat a little bit about is some of the troubleshooting things, but also some of the information finding things. You and I both work in a world with to your point, there's stuff in forums or it's through documentation that perhaps wasn't written for either just the average person or potentially it was written for a specific purpose and now you have to use it for a different purpose and so you've got to do that contextual piece. That's been another huge use case that I've had, even just in the last couple weeks. Hey, there's June 28th, there's some EU accessibility requirements coming into place. We got to make sure we're compliant. We've done audits. That's fantastic. Boy, the WCAG documentation is
Yeah.
something special to read through. It's nuanced. It's sometimes it's clear and sometimes it's not. And being able to say, hey, Copilot even, here's the section of the documentation. Here's the bit of code that we think is not compliant. How do we need to tweak this in order to fit that compliance? Bam, right there. It's there, and we send it into Jira. And what I found really helpful is it gives you options. It can say, oh, here's 3 different ways you might be able to solve that problem. Uh,
Nice.
and here's the pros and cons of those. This is stuff that would have, to your point, an intern couldn't have done it, or it would have taken a long time for somebody to sit down and do it. And instead, I was able to do it, 10 minutes, 20 minutes if I was really sort of digging in and curious. And we can move on. It's an important thing that we want.